You're back to the verdict. It appears it's different strokes for different folks because the Lagos ruling party candidate has cast his vote. Sanwo-Olu cast his vote in Lagos. Yes, you do remember that there are some areas where voting hadn't started, but as you can see moments ago, him casting his ballot, as it were, in Lagos as well.
But Lagos is not the only place. We also had visuals come through from Akwa Ibom State. Where these pictures got it? Akwa Ibom State's APC governorship candidate Insimaike and his wife voted at around 11 a.m. at Unit 004 Edemea Road 1 in the Kotabasi local government area of Akwa Ibom State. That's the APC governorship candidate much earlier today, about 11 o'clock, doing his responsibility.
Still in the same vicinity is Bayelsa State, where the state governor cast his vote at Ward 2, Unit 5, Torora Sabama local government area of Bayelsa State. And there he is arriving, and his machine reading, his the smart card reader in use with him there. Everyone paying attention. That was moments ago as well.
Yeah, so, but the thing about this in Lagos, if we could get back to it, is that as we saw in some areas, if Mr. Sanwo-Olu could cast his vote, while in other areas, as we did see shown report, voting not happening, and if that area has got about 65,000 registered voters controlling 84 PUs, that's huge, that's quite 55, significant. 55. So if it's that, it's significant. What do you see happening? Do you think that INEC can countermand this, and is it likely to come back tomorrow, or they fix the date, or they will say, look, this is not significant enough to affect the outcome?
That's just one, Chamberlain, because there are pockets of reports coming in, and so I do not think that is in isolation. So in the end, that figure may be in the essence of 150,000, registered voters who at the moment are not able we're not able to start voting as early as 8 a.m. So what I think INEC should do is to allow voting in those areas affected to continue. Not necessarily postponing or rescheduling, no. It's just to allow voting, go beyond maybe the 2 p.m. If they were supposed to do 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and now they're starting at 12 noon, they should be able to, allow this process run till evening.
But that will expose them to, if you vote late, the collation will get late into the night, and, the challenges associated with that particular scenario, collation of results late into the night.
Because this was something not anticipated, it's just happening. I'm sure INEC can adjust, as it were, to accommodate, those votes, so that again we are not having a situation whereby people are systematically being disenfranchised. Now we do not know for sure who they would have voted for, but I think what INEC should do. This is Lagos. There are no geographical challenges, as it were, where you would think that after the vote is cast and the collation is being done, they're going to have a hell of time, maybe get into the eventual collation center. Everything is within. This is happening on the mainland. So I think that the reasonable thing for INEC to do is to allow voting continue in those
into the evening
to progress into the evening, and then beef security around that area to ensure that nothing goes wrong. So if voting ends in other areas, so you can redeploy the personnel, as it were, to give more support to where voting is still ongoing.
You don't think that's even riskier, given that at daytime security wasn't so comforting, much less in the thick of the night?
I have my personal impression about this security issue because I think we are paying lip service to security during elections, really, because when you look at the number of personnel that are deployed, the resources that are expended, and when you look at it comparatively with what we are getting, the question always is, so what exactly are we doing? You know, I mean, we are not getting anything. We're not getting value.
Well, you know, it's not the first time. We're not getting value. Even in the previous, the presidential elections, we had in some instances where INEC had to increase the voting time for about 2 hours. So maybe that will not be a problem until the INEC officials speak. We'll be waiting to see what will happen in Koshofe local government area where 55.
Not just Koshofe, in parts of Ojudu.
And also in Isolo, where you're coming from.
In Isolo. I mean, all of these areas are affected. These are the ones that have reached us. You know, some parts of Okota, you know, they're also affected.
Yeah, but beyond
at 11 p.m., materials had not arrived.
But beyond Lagos, I'm sure you're keeping tabs on what's happening elsewhere in other parts of the country. What impression do you get?
Well, I get a fair impression that people are coming out. Of course, there's voter apathy, and I don't know why. You know, not as much people, particularly in the southeast, are coming out to vote. And there are also pockets of reports of, you know, vote buying in some parts of those, you know, states. While in some parts of the south, you know, we see an entire militarization, as it were, of the whole place,
entire?
Which is, as it were, I mean, particularly with River State.
You mean the presence of the military?
Yeah, I mean that's what you would call it, and it is even. I mean, I chatted with someone just before I came in. Oh, okay, just trying to have a fair idea what's happening, and the guy says to me, with what I'm seeing, I don't want to go out. It's like it's a war situation, so let them fight, and then whatever they settle for at the end of the day, it's fine. I'll rather be alive, and so that in itself is giving a lot of people, you know, concern, and this should not be it. I think 21st century policing or security provision should go beyond the crude way we are trying to provide security in Nigeria today. This is unnecessary.
All right, let me go to Abuja.
I think we can use technology. We can be more civil in our engagement and ensure that people can go out, because if people don't feel safe,
all right,
then you have lost it.
Ms. Amadi, talk to us about the coordination between security agencies, particularly on election day, different parts, or perhaps where you may have noticed. What did you notice? How did you see that coordination amongst themselves pan out?
I think that there's need for us to have an audit of election day security provision, and I mean a financial audit. Because the pattern we have seen, especially since 2015, and maybe beyond then, is the police, security agencies making a show of the number of policemen they are deploying. Oh, we are going to this place, we are bringing 30,000 policemen, everything is. And then when you get to the field, as an observer, that's observed practically every election in this country, you find out that there are serious lapses, and you begin to ask, where are these 30,000 policemen? Because in some booths you see the police security presence heavily populated, and in many other places, particularly in rural areas, you see that there's no presence of police officers. And then somebody has gone home, perhaps also retired, the huge sums of money that was made available for 30,000 policemen. And then we ask ourselves, where are these people? Where are the huge number of policemen that were deployed to Lagos that left many places open for thugs to run amok? Where were they? Where are the policemen that we were told were deployed? The policemen, the what we call paramilitary forces that were deployed everywhere, they allowed ballot boxes to be snatched and a large number of votes to be cancelled. In the last election, 2.9 million votes were cancelled. 2.9 million votes was enough in 2015 to determine who became the president of Nigeria, and that number was cancelled because of cancellation, violence, ballot box snatches, and or what have you. I think there's a need for us to have an audit of security. 10 billion was given to the SSS. And then you look around, you hear lots of things. You hear violence everywhere. How much was given to the police? About 30-something billion if you take the whole bulk. We need to account for these things, ask proper questions. Now, we are also seeing a pattern where in places where the media is available, you see police people like your correspondent in Kano. As soon as we were just talking about security, you saw a small number of civil defense just walk past. I was telling them the INEC National Guard that was choreographed. However, in villages, There's no single presence of anybody, nobody. And these are where this whatever malpractice you want to, you want to carry out happen. They happen in villages, in the interior, in the hinterlands. You need to have presence there. At the end of the day, these monies will be retired. Also, talking about apathy and the role of security operatives, when you militarize, and I agree with my colleague in the studio that the right word for it is militarization. When you militarize an ordinarily civil activity, you will scare people. It's not everybody like you and I who will dare and go out to want to conduct us, want to carry out civic responsibility. When you militarize these places, people will definitely want to stay back at home. However, I don't also want us to overflog the issue of apathy. Standard voter turnout the world over, where you don't have maybe a dictatorship, where you have between 40 to 50%, that is normally the pattern you see. Now, there are outliers here and there, either below, like what happened in Lagos 2 weeks ago, where Lagos, with 6.3 million registered voters, you had about 18 to 19% coming out. That is an outlier. That is dangerous. And that perhaps was, the explanation for that perhaps was the security securitization, or even the role that talks played on that day. You go to a place like River State, where it was coming close to less than 22%. That's not good for our polity. But also the role of the card reader. If you recall before now, many politicians were busy promising each other the number of votes they would turn out. In Kano, they said they would turn out 5 million. So in Lagos, somebody said 3 million. But that was not possible because you had a mitigant in the name of the card reader and a PVC.
We need to bring it back here.
To constrain people.
I also need to let you know that for the fact that you think or thought that as of the time we got to our correspondent to give us his report at the time, you may think it was choreographed, but don't forget we had gone to try to establish connection earlier and we still saw those security men. So if they were carrying out their patrol and then they were there while we went back to him, doesn't necessarily mean that that was choreographed, because we saw the same scenario in several other states that we went to our correspondents to give us those live feeds. But we do acknowledge your point, but we appreciate your thought. But Mr. Sylvester, at the moment, well, it's just where we have to let it go at this point in time.
No, yeah, but
as briefly, we have less than 10 seconds, if you can.
You know, I want to align with him how that we need to audit our security agencies and their participation in these elections, because whether this election will go well is its security. You know, to have security and INEC offices are being burnt, and we know these materials are there, the security everywhere, yet these things can still happen. It's sad, and we just hope we can grow up someday and
we appreciate
be that society we truly
Chimamadi is of the Center for Transparency Advocacy, and then we also have Mr. Sylvester Bodagi, publisher, National Daily Newspaper. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on for the verdict. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.